Hare Krishna, a very warm welcome to all the devotees to our program Srimad Bhagavatam study. Today we are going to continue our discussion on the sixth chapter of second canto. In the previous two classes, we have elaborately discussed and tried to understand verses number 1 to 12 of this sixth chapter. So, the title of this chapter is Purush Sukta Confirmed. This title is given by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given the same chapter a different title. He says this chapter is titled, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, is Second Description of Virat Purusha. Second description of the universal form. So let me just read it. Second description of the universal form, Vibhutis of the Lord. So we discussed this part also in the previous class, why Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given this title and what is the basis of Prabhupada's giving the title as Purushukta confirmed. We will try to discuss this when we revise this previous class. Overall, this is our 69th class, and today we are going to continue our discussion from 13th till the 22nd verse. Before that, we do some Mangalacharan prayers. So anyone would like to?
I can do it.
Okay. Yes, Prabhuji. Please go ahead. You are on mute, Prabhu.
Sorry. Mangalacharan. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnana Janashalakaya Sakshur Urmilatamyena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Utapada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishtavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam सह गण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजन सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सह गण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपीश गोपिका राधा कांता नमोस्तुते भक्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। हरे कृष्ण। थैंक यू प्रभु जी।
Cannot hear you, Prabhu.
Oh, sorry. I was on
We are
mute.
not okay.
Yeah.
Now we are.
Yeah. So sorry. So thank you very much, Jivan Prabhu, for the prayers. Now I would like to invite Manish Kulkarni Prabhu to do the recap of the previous class. In this recap, what we have done is we have not uh, prepared the recap in the form of various verses. Like every time we would do the recap verse by verse. But this time, what we have done is we have kind of compiled some important concepts from the previous class, and we will revise those concepts, and that should be good enough to revise the first 12 verses of the previous class. Yes, Prabhu, please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. This is the summary for the last class, Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, Purush Sukta confirmed. So again, we are discussing why this title of Chapter 6 is Purusha Sukta confirmed. So as discussed, this is because the verses which will be coming in Chapter 5 and 6 are very similar to the verses in Purusha Sukta. Yeah. So Purusha Sukta again comes in Rigveda, and in that Rigveda, in the Veda, it was not clear who this Purusha was. Yeah, Purusha is. Yeah. So in Bhagavatam, now we know that this Purusha is nothing but the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. From everything, all the ingredients are coming. So now it gives a very clarity on about the Purusha Sukta. Yeah. So in the past, a lot of debate has happened between the impersonalists and the Vaishnavas. So impersonalists typically said that this Purusha is impersonal. And these impersonalists typically believed in few Vedas and Upanishads, which were the part of the Shruti text. They did not give any regards to the Smritis like Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. But when Bhagavatam presented this Purusha Sukta prayer in line with Purusha Sukta terms, it was confirmed that these Smritis are at the same level of Shrutis. So that is why this whatever the understanding between Smritis and the Smritis were at the same level and were confirmed that they are all in line. Then again, as we are talking about the another topic or another contest, yeah, the meaning of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's title, second description of universal form. In the first description, we understood, that is Canto 2, Chapter 1, about the Virat Rupa as the object of meditation of a neophyte yogi. And now we understand that the ingredients of Virat Rupa are actually coming from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Yeah, so this is now very clear. And yeah, moving ahead.
Yeah. So just one thing.
Yes.
Yes. Maybe as they believed in few Vedas and Upanishads. Actually, it should be Vedas and few Upanishads, some selected Upanishads.
Okay.
And then I think you also mentioned about they may not believe in Bhagavad Gita, but they should be believing in Bhagavad Gita. Generally, Bhagavad Gita is accepted by everyone because that is the word of the Supreme Lord. So maybe some minor correction. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we go to this topic that Lord is both material and effective cause of universe. Yeah. So material cause means gross elements and all the material required to form universe comes from the Lord. And again, effective cause means Lord assembles this material to form the universe. And a very good example or analogy was given by our Prabhuji regarding a pot. Yeah. So what is this? The analogy of a pot. So material cause of a pot is sand, water, binder, etc. But the effective cause is the potter who typically gives the shape to all the sand, binder, and shape to the ingredients and makes the pot. So this is how the term Lord is both material and effective, and everything comes from the Lord only. Now we move to the next point regarding the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu limbs typically provide the ingredients for the universe. And the flow chart was already specified in the slide pack. So regarding the subtle sense organ and the gross sense organ. So Garbhodakshaya Vishnu subtle sense organ gives rise to the sense object Tanamatra plus element. We know all this Tanamatra is smell, touch, yeah. And then the elements are air, water, ether, etc. And Garbhodakshaya Vishnu gross sense organ gives rise to the sense Devata plus subtle sense organ. And if you see, we all were referring to the slide pack, the chart. Yeah? If you see a typical example, we know that there are a lot of specific gross and subtle organ charts are already there. If you I don't know whether that, yeah, if you can go to the next.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, okay. So what is a typical gross sense organ and a subtle sense organ? Sense organs are typically like eyes, ears, nose, hand, or tongue, and they are part of the gross body. Yeah, sense organs are made of gross elements, earth, air, etc. Then, beside these physical senses, each of us is also endowed with five subtle senses. Subtle sense organs provides the capability. Here also, typically the sense organs which are see, smell, hear, taste. Yeah, so typically we discussed about this, and all these sense organs that are, so whatever we see, it is through these organs that external objects are experienced. So, example, we know gross eye, akshini, subtle eye, chakshu. Yeah, similarly, we also discussed one form that the gross body has a hands. However, to perform the activities by hand, we need energy. So the subtle organ is balam. So this is also one of the example. Yeah. Then a very good point, we are also discussing that everything is spiritual world is full of consciousness, whereas corresponding vibhuti in material world is unconscious. So again, here Prabhuji gave us a very good example. And then speech, fire, etc. is the spiritual world are eternal and full of consciousness, and their vibhutis in material world are maya and temporary. So example here was like when Lord Krishna is walking on earth, yeah, the earth element, when Krishna is walking in spiritual world, the earth element is conscious and is living. In winter, the earth will become warmer, and in summer it will become cooler, so as to serve the Lord. So this is what it typically tells, that everything is spiritual. Everything in spiritual world is full of consciousness. Everything you see in material world is material and has a corresponding spiritual attribute to it in a spiritual world. But in the material world, this element is Asat, Achit, and Niranand, whereas in spiritual world we say it as Sat, Chit, and Anand. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. Okay. So I hope you got the idea. So we, rather than discussing it verse by verse, we thought that we will discuss it by concepts. So there were several concepts we had discussed last time in the previous class, and that is where we have summarized them. Now we have been discussing these chapter, and then the formula given in the previous classes was how, from which part of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, what ingredient comes uh, for the creation of material world. So this was the formula. Prabhuji already discussed this in the class, and we told you that this formula is coming from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. This is the some of the points that we discussed, and here we would like to show you what were the gross sense organs names in Sanskrit, what were the subtle sense organs. Like today, we gave the example of Akshini as the gross eye and Chakshu as the subtle eye. So, gross eye, that's what you see on your face. You can see it physically. It is in the socket here. And then there are retina, there are other components of the eye which you can physically see. But behind this gross eye, there is a subtle eye which you cannot see. But that subtle eye is actually, you can call it the capability to see. Some people may have gross eye but may have no capability to see, like blind people. So you can still see their gross eye but cannot see the but they do not have the capability. Similarly, people who are deaf, so gross ears are known as karna, subtle ears are known as shrotra. Similarly, gross skin is known as tvachi, subtle is known as twak. Like that, we have different difference in nomenclature for gross sense organ and subtle sense organ. Like this, here you will see mostly the karmendriyas. So speaking, it is known as vani, and sorry, it is known as mukham. Gross sense organ is known as mukham, and then the subtle sense organ is known as vak. Similarly, for performing activities, it is hasta, hands, and subtle organ is balam. Similarly, for moving, it is pada, and uh, subtle sense organ is karmabhir. Like that. So there are examples that we discussed, and then we discussed one example in the previous class from this where we discussed this verse where Rupanam Tejasam Chakshur Diva Suryasya Chakshini. So, for example, Chakshini. Chakshini means subtle eye. So from the subtle sense organ of the Vishnu comes what? Tanmatra and the element. So from the Lord seeing organ Chakshu arose form and fire. So form is the Tanmatra, form means Rupa, and fire means the gross element. And from his place of seeing, uh, the eyeballs, which is Akshini, from which is Akshini, Divha Suryasya Cha Akshini, Divha Suryasya Cha Akshini, arose the divine sun deity, Suryasya, and the sense organ of seeing in the universal form. So every time all the details are not giving, when you understand it is Chakshini or it is eye, then we need to understand that from subtle eye, the Tanmatras are coming and the gross element is coming. And from the gross eye, the sense Devatas are coming and the subtle senses for the Virat Purusha are coming, like that. So, as an example, we have discussed. So, besides those, there are other details also that are mentioned in these 12 verses, and the list was discussed here. So, like this, we had this all the verses we had discussed from 1 to 12, and ultimately the whole concept of this 1 to 12 is that everything in this material world is coming from Supreme Lord Vishnu, Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. So like we were discussing the various questions asked by Narad Muni to Brahmaji, and the third question was Yacha, what it is composed of. So it is composed of various elements, and all these ingredients actually are coming from Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. That is the main message. So all the elements coming from Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, what does it mean? Say that Lord Vishnu is the material cause. Lord Vishnu is the material cause. Now, so till 12th verse we have discussed. Now we will continue the discussion further. So Brahmaji now it starts to summarize this discussion, because he has started this discussion. He has started to tell that from this organ of Lord Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, this element is coming from this subtle organ, this is coming from this gross organ, this is coming. Now he cannot continue to describe this forever, because there are so many things in this material world, so many creations, that Lord Brahma can continue to describe, and it will never end. So he has to summarize, and it has to conclude somewhere. So in the 13th and the 16th verse, 13th to 16th verse, he provides a short summary. He kind of concludes the discussion. So what we will do is we will recite these verses and then we will read the translation. So for recitation, can anyone would like to volunteer?
I can do it.
Prabhu.
I'll also Ariksha Prabhu.
Okay, Anuradha Mataji, then Jivan Prabhu, and I think Manish ji also volunteered.
Yes, Prabhu, I said. Yeah.
Okay, so we go with the sequence. Jivan Prabhu, Manish ji, and then Anuradha Mataji. So we will give everyone the chance. Okay, Prabhuji. So please repeat with me. Aham Bhavan Bhavaschaiva
Aham Bhavan Bhavachaiva
Ta ime munayo grajaha
Tayime Munayo Grajaha
Surasur naranagaha
Surasura Naranaga
Khaga mrag sarisrapaha
Kaga Mriga Sarispragha
Gandharvapsaraso yaksha
Gandharvapsaraso Yaksha
Raksho bhuta ganoragaha
Raksho Bhuta Ganoraga
Pashava pitaraha siddha
Pasavaha Pitra Siddha
Vidyadhra charana dhruma
Vidyadhara Charana Druma
Anye cha vividha jiva
Anye Cha Vivida Jiva
Jalasthala nabhaukasa
Jalasthala Nabaukasha
Graharksha ketavas taras
Grahatas Grahakar
Ketavas taras
Ketavas Taras
Taditaha Sah
Taditaha
स्तनयि स्तनयित्वनवः
स्तनयित्वनः
सर्वं पुरुष एवेदं
सर्वं पुरुष एवेदं
भूतं भव्यं भवच्च यत्
भूतं भव्यं भवच्च यत्
तेनेदम् आवृतं विश्वं
तेनेदम् आवृतं विश्वं
वितस्तिम् अधितिष्ठति.
वितस्तिम् अधितिष्ठति.
Yeah. Now please read the translation here.
Beginning from me, Brahma, down to you, and Bhava, Shiva, all the great sages who were born before you, the demigods, the demons, the nagas, the human beings, the birds, the beasts, as well as the reptiles, etc., and all phenomenal manifestations of the universes, namely the planets, stars, asteroids, luminaries, lightning, thunder, and the inhabitants of the different planetary systems, namely the Gandharvas, Apsaras, Yakshas, Rakshas, Bhutaganas, Uragas, Pashus, Pitas, Siddhas, Vidyadharas, Charanas, and all other different varieties of living entities, including the birds, beasts, trees, and everything that be, are all covered by the universal form of the Lord at all times, namely past, present, and future. Although he is transcendent to all of them, eternally existing in a form not exceeding 9 inches.
Now you can see Brahma ji started describing about which ingredient came from which body of the which limb of the Garbhodaksha Vishnu. Now here in these 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, these four verses, he's now concluding everything. So in the first, you can see in the first three verses, starting from Aham Bhavan Bhavaschaiva. Aham means Lord Brahma himself. Bhavan, Bhavan is for Lord Shiva. Aham Bhavan is actually for Narad Muni. And Bhavas is actually mainly for Lord Shiva. Beginning from me, Aham, down to you, Bhavan, and Bhava is Lord Shiva. All the great sages who were born before you, the demigods, etc., etc., he's saying that everything actually is coming from the Supreme Lord. Beginning from me, Brahma, you, and Shiva, like that. And then he starts to give the list. Sura, Nara, Naga, Khaga, Mrga, Sarispraha, Gandharva, Apsara, Yaksha, Raksho, Bhuta, Gano, Pashava, Pitaraha, Siddha, like that. Vidyadhara, Charana, Druma. He's kind of making a big list and then giving everything, that everything actually is coming from the Lord. And then are all covered by the universal form of the Lord. Are all covered by the universal form of the Lord at all times, namely past, present, and future. Bhutam Bhavyam Bhavachayat. Bhutam means past, Bhavyam means now, present, and Bhavach means in the future. Although Tenedam Avratam Vishwam, although he is transcendental to all of them, eternally existing in the form not exceeding 9 inches. Tenedam Avratam Vishwam. Everything actually is covered by the Supreme Lord. Vitastim adhitishtati. Vitastim adhitishtati. So this word vitastim is something similar like 10 fingers. So can you see my hand here? So this is 10 fingers. So the distance from this finger till this finger, the 10 fingers, this is actually called as vitastim. So this last verse, the 16th verse of the 6th chapter, starting from Sarvam Purusha Evedam. Because the title of this chapter is Purush Sukta confirmed by Prabhupada. So the point I am trying to make here by highlighting it in red is that this particular verse is from the Purush Sukta prayers. In the Purush Sukta prayers, there are number of verses, and what I am trying to say here, 2a plus 1b, what does it mean? So verse number 1 in Purush Sukta prayers, imagine there are two parts. So for example, this is one verse, and if you divide it into two, so this will be upper part, this will be lower part, like Sarvam Purusha Evedam Bhutam Bhavyam Bhavachayat. Part 1. Tenedam Avratam Vishwam Vitastim Adhitishtati. Part 2. So similarly, in Purush Sukta prayer, verse number 2, part A, and in Purush Sukta prayer, verse number 1, part B, are very similar to what you see here in Srimad Bhagavatam. So maybe I'll just give you one example. So we will go to maybe this is slide number. This is slide number 32. We'll go to that slide where we started discussing the Purush Sukta prayer. So you see here, Purusha evedam sarvam yad bhutam yadcha bhavyam. So this is actually part 1 of verse number 2 of Purush Sukta prayer, part A. And this is very similar to the actually this is 16. This is 16, not 18. This is 16. So it is very similar to you see the blue coloring here and the blue coloring here. Sarvam Purusham Evedam Bhutam Bhavyam Bhavachayat. So this is the verse we are studying right now in Bhagavatam. And then the Bhagavatam verse Tenedam Avratam Vishwam Vitastim Adhitishtati. Vitastim is 10 fingers. 10 fingers like this. Vitastim Adhitishtati. Adhitishtati means exceeding by 10 fingers. So now this is coming from where? This is coming from verse number 1 of Purush Sukta. Sa bhumim vishvato vritam atyatishtat dashangulam. So what is dashangulam in the Purush Sukta prayer is vitastim in the Srimad Bhagavatam, like that. So I hope you got the point, what I'm trying to say. So the point is that this particular verse which appears in Srimad Bhagavatam is Purush Sukta verse 2a plus 1b. So I hope that is clear. Now, what we will also try to understand is a little bit about this verse number 16, where it says, are all covered by the universal form of the Lord. Sarvam Purusham Evedam Bhutam Bhavyam Bhavachayat Tenedam Avratam Vishwam. Tenedam Avratam Vishwam. Avratam means covered. So whatever material elements, ingredients you see in this material world are all covered by the universal form. Are all covered by universal form. Now, what do you mean by all covered by universal form? Actually, we told you that universal form or Virat Purush is something which is a imagination. So in a more Vaishnava language, and this imagination is mainly for whom? This imagination is something for the neophytes who don't really understand the spiritual subject matter, or they don't want to understand, or they don't have the inclination to understand that spiritual subject matter. So for them, this Virat Purusha concept is there. But if you want to understand in a more Vaishnava language, Tenedam Avratam Vishwam means this is actually coming from Garbhodakshai Vishnu. This is coming from Garbhodakshai Vishnu. So that is something which we can understand in a more Vaishnava form, Vaishnava language. Are all covered by the universal form of the Lord at all times, namely past, present, and future, although he is transcendental to all of them. Now here, what does it mean, transcendental to all? Vitastim. Vitastim means 10 fingers. Adhitishtati. Adhitishtati means exceeding by 10 fingers. So what does it mean? Say for example, if I say the dimension of the universal dimension of the universe, or the Virat Purusha is, or the universal of the universe is, say for example, some maybe say 2000 miles, just for argument's sake, 2000 miles is the dimension of the universe. Now, what is the dimension of the Lord? Is it 2000 miles plus 10 fingers? No, that is not the idea here being expressed. The concept of vitastim or 10 finger is mainly to impress upon this fact in a figurative way that the Lord is beyond the material universe. Lord limits the size of the material universe, how long the material universe will be, but Lord himself is not limited by the material universe. The Lord is exceeding the material universe, and in a figurative way, it is being mentioned that he is transcendental to all of them, eternally existing in a form not exceeding 9 inches. 9 inches is something like 10 fingers. 9 inches like 10 fingers. So the concept here is that he is beyond the size of the material universe. He is beyond the concept of the material universe. He is above material universe. He is not limited by the material universe. So that is the main idea here. So, if you read Srila Prabhupada's purport, Prabhupada has given another point here. He's saying that everything in the universe is coming from the Lord. So, in one sense, in one description, this universe is also the Lord. But the Lord exceeds the universe because he is beyond the universe, as expressed by this word vitastim. We can understand that the Lord is also different from the universe. He is same at the same time, different also. Now, does that sound similar? Does that sound familiar? What kind of philosophy, what kind of principle is that? Same as well as different.
Achintya Bheda Tattva.
Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva, which is the Bheda, which is the philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva. So Prabhupada is saying that Lord is same as the universe, but also beyond the universe is something which is actually confirmation of the Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva philosophy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that is something which we need to understand from these 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th verses. Now we will go to the another concept that we need to understand from this is, in Srimad Bhagavad Gita also the concept of Virat Purusha is given. The universal form in the 11th chapter. Now in the 11th chapter, you will find a very similar description is there as we have just now read in this 16th verse. So, Jivan Prabhu, can you read the translation here?
I can read. O Arjuna, whatever you wish to see, behold at once in this body of mine. This universal form can show you whatever you now desire to see, and whatever you may want to see in the future. Everything moving and non-moving is here, completely in one place.
Everything is here. Everything is here. Now, everything is here. You see here are all covered by the universal form of the Lord. Everything is here. And then this universal form can show you whatever you now desire to see and whatever you may want to see in the future. Yach cha anyad drashtum ichhasi. Yach cha anyad drashtum ichhasi. Ichhasi means you may desire to see. Cha Yaccha means whatever you are seeing now, and anyad, whatever other things you want to see in the future, you can see in this material universal form. So again, you can see whatever is mentioned in Purush Sukta 2a plus 1b, whatever you see here in the Bhagavatam verse number 16, and what you see in Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the verse number 7 of 11th chapter universal form, it is all same. It is all the same Virat Purusha or universal form being mentioned here. All three are same. Okay, now we move to the verse number 17. So, Jivan Prabhu, can you read together with me?
Yeah, sure.
Swadhishnyam pratpan prano
Swadeshtyam pratapan pano
bahishcha pratapatyaso
bahicha pratapatyaso
evam virajam pratapans
evam virajam pratapam
tapati antarbahir puman.
tapati antarbahir puman.
Okay, read the translation.
Just as the light fire energizes the body inside and spreads its influence outside as well, the Lord energizes the universe inside and outside as well.
Now, so far, till verse number 16, one verse number 1 till verse number 16, we have understood that the Lord is the material cause of this universe. Everything that you saw, a long list from verse number 1 till verse number 16, there was a long list, and the everything was trying to say that the Lord is the material cause of this universe. In the 17th verse, what we are understanding is that he is the effective cause of the universe. So can you remind me which analogy did we study in the past class to understand the difference between material cause and effective cause? Which analogy did we study?
Pot, analogy of pot.
Analogy of pot. So pot is made up of clay, water, maybe binder, etc. But that is the material cause. And for making a pot, you also need someone to rotate the wheel. You need to have a stick, and that person need to give shape to the pot, and that is called the effective cause. The potter is the effective cause. Similarly, in this verse, what we are trying to understand is that after giving the ingredients, all the ingredients, the Lord uh, energizes the universe from inside as well as from the outside. The Lord energizes the universe from inside as well as the outside. So the Lord makes the universe functional. So he gives the ingredients and he makes it functional as well, establishing the fact that he is both the material as well as the effective cause of the universe. Now let us see. Swadhishnyam pratpan prano. Swadhishnyam pratpan prano. Bahishcha pratap प्रतपत्य सौ एवं विराजम प्रतपम tapatyantar bahir puman. Now, both Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur as well as Prabhupada has given a little different translation, but ultimately the meaning is same. There is an analogy given in this verse. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur uses the analogy of life air, pranavayu. Swadhishnyam pratapan prano. Bahishcha pratapatya sau. So he's saying that just as life air energizes the body inside and spreads its influence outside as well. Now, what does it mean? For various bodily functions of our body, we need life air, we need pranavayu, and that pranavayu is inside. But for keeping ourselves alive, we also need air, oxygen from outside. We need that vayu also. So we need pranavayu inside and we need oxygen vayu from outside to breathe and to keep our body run in normal course of life. So just as the life air energizes the body inside and spreads its influence outside as well, similarly, the Lord energizes the universe inside and outside as well. Antar Bahir Puman. Antar means inside and outside also. So once he has given the ingredients, he enters into these ingredients to make these ingredients functional. So that is the understanding of this verse. So the Lord is both material as well as the effective cause of the material universe. That is what we want to explain to you in this 17th verse. So okay, and Srila Prabhupada gives the different analogy. Srila Prabhupada gives the analogy of the sun. So like for example, sun gives us light and heat outside, but there is light, there is energy or there is heat also inside the body. So for example, if a person dies, the soul leaves the body, then the body becomes cold. So what does it mean? That whatever food we are eating, whatever nourishment we are getting from outside is actually coming from the sun. It is mainly because of the sun energy it is growing. So when we eat it, then our body from inside also gets heat from, actually indirectly, from the sun also only. So like the sun gives us heat outside and inside, similarly the Lord also energizes the universe from both inside as well as outside. So this analogy by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Prabhupada is slightly different. One gives the analogy of the sun, another gives the analogy of the air, but ultimately the main message is the same, that the Lord is energizing this universe both from the inside and from the outside. Okay, now we read the 18th verse. So since we have a few verses today, we now give this opportunity to Manish ji. Manish ji, can you read?
Yes, yes, Prabhu.
Okay, so please recite together with me. Somratasya bhayasyesho
So mritasya bhayesyesho
martyamannam yadatyagat
martyam annam yadatyagat
mahimaisha tato brahman
mahimaisyo tato brahman
purushasya duratyayah.
purushasya duratyaya.
Please read.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the controller of immortality and fearlessness, and he is transcendental to death and the fruitive actions of the material world. O Narada, O Brahmana, it is therefore difficult to measure the glories of the Supreme Person.
Huh. Now you will see, you will notice that now we have changed the theme. In the previous verse, the theme was what is this universe composed of? And the Lord is both the material and the effective cause of the universe. So in the Brahma Narad dialogue, that was the theme from verse number 1 till verse number 17. Now the theme is changing. Brahmaji is taking a detour. Brahmaji is starting a new discussion from 18th verse. What he is trying to say is that although the Lord is creating this material universe, Lord is the both the material as well as the effective cause of this universe. But besides these material universe, the Lord is also actually the Lord of spiritual world, spiritual universe. So Brahmaji is saying that Lord's jurisdiction of power is not only limited to this material universe, but it extends beyond, and it also extends to the spiritual universe. So that is where he is giving this explanation. So amratasya bhayasyesho. So amratasya abhayasyas. Abhayasya isho. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the controller of immortality, amratasya, and fearlessness, abhyasya, isho. Isho means controller. So the Lord Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is the controller of both immortality and fearlessness. And he is transcendental to death and the fruitive actions of the material world. Martyam annam yad atyagat. Martyam annam yad atyagat. So he's trying to say Martyam. Martyam means which is mortal. And Martyam annam yad atyagat. Atyagat means he's beyond. Atyagat means beyond, transcendental. So Martyam annam yad atyagat. Annam actually is referring to fruitive actions, sakam karma. He's transcendental to death and fruitive actions of the material world. Mahimaisha tato Brahman. Mahima means glory. Tato Brahman. Brahman is actually referring to Narad Muni, Brahmana. O Narada, O Brahmana, Mahimaisha, Purushasya Duratyaya. It is therefore difficult to measure the glories. Glories means Mahima of the Supreme Person. Durat, difficult means Duratyaya. So the concept is that besides the creation of material universe, the Lord is not restricted to material universe. His jurisdiction is also to the other world, which is beyond death, which is beyond fruitive action, which is immortal, and which is full of fearlessness. So this is what he says in the verse number 18th. Okay, Manishji.
Yes.
Now, in the 19th verse, he will discuss the quality of the spiritual world, because he has now, in the previous verse, in the 18th verse, he has talked about controller of immortality and fearlessness. Now, where does this immortality and fearlessness is coming from? This is coming from the spiritual world. So, here he will describe the quality of the spiritual world. What he will say? Please read with me. Padeshu sarva bhutani
Adeshu sarvabhutani
pumsa sthiti pado viduhu
pumsa sthiti pado vidu
amritam kshemam abhayam
amrutam shemam abhayam
त्रिमूर्धनो ध्यायी मूर्धसौ.
Trimurdhano dhyayi murdhasu.
Hmm.
The wise know that the living beings are situated within the portions designated by the Lord, whose feet protect all places. Eternity, absence of sickness, and absence of fear of committing offense are fixed in the spiritual world, situated above the three gunas.
Hmm. Padeshu Sarvabhutani. No, Padeshu Sarvabhutani means Sarvabhutani means all the living beings. So all the living beings are situated within the portions designated by the Lord, which is Padeshu. Padeshu means the portions designated by the Lord. So the Lord has created some places, Padeshu, and all the living entities are located somewhere in these places. Either they are liberated souls or they are conditioned souls. Everyone is placed somewhere or the other by the Supreme Lord. Uh, Pumsa Sthiti Pado Viduhu, whose feet protect all the places. Sthiti means protection. Pado means the feet of the lotus feet of the Lord. So the lotus feet of the Lord protect everything, and the Lord has designated some places for the living entities in this in the spiritual world and as well as in the material world. But Amritam, eternity, Kshemam, absence of sickness, and Abhayam, absence of fearing, committing offense, are fixed in spiritual world situated above the three gunas. Trimurdhno dhai murdhasu. Trimurdhno means uh, trimurdhno means beyond the material world. Uh, Murdhno means the topmost. Three means the topmost places of this material world. Uh, and this place which is Amritam, Kshemam, and Abhayam is actually situated above the material world. Uh, Murdhasau, like that. He's giving this explanation. Murdhasau means situated above. A three murdhano means above the material world. Three murdhano means above the three topmost places of the material world. It is situated beyond the material world. So, what he's saying is in the 19th verse is that the qualities of Amritam, Kshemam, Abhayam, etc., which I described in the previous verse, in the 18th verse, are actually coming from the other kind of existence which is spiritual in nature, which is beyond this material nature. That is what he's trying to say. So it is the qualities of spiritual world. Now you see here, both in the 18th and the 19th verse, I have given the reference to the which Purush Sukta verse actually it belongs to. So it belongs to, you can see here, Purush Sukta verse 2b plus 3a. So in Purush Sukta verse number 2, the second part of that verse, and Purush Sukta verse number 3, first part of that verse. So they both together combine, and it is very similar to the verse that you see here in Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'm not going in detail of showing you all the Purush Sukta verse, but I'm giving you the information that you can locate these specific verse of Srimad Bhagavatam in verse number 2 and verse number 3 of the Purush Sukta verse. And if you have Subodhini, you can also see page number 208, where you will find the table which describes all these comparisons. Similarly, for 19th verse, whatever you see in the Bhagavatam is actually part of Purush Sukta verse number 3, part 2. That is where you will find the corresponding Purush Sukta verse. Okay, now we go to Anuradha Mataji for recitation.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah. Padastrayo bhaischasan
Padastrayo mahishchasan
aprajanam ya ashramaha
aprajana ya ashrama
antastri lokayastvapro
antastri lokayasto aparo
graha medo brahadbrataha.
graha medo brahatvrataha.
Hmm.
Shall I read, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Behind the material realm lies the spiritual realm with the abode of the liberated souls. In the material realm of the three gunas, the material is devoid of bhakti to the Lord reside.
Now, he has given this explanation of the spiritual world and the material world in the previous verse. He has given the explanation of the qualities of the spiritual world. Now here he will differentiate between the spiritual world and the material world in the 20th verse. And you will find this Srimad Bhagavatam verse in the corresponding Purusukta prayers number 4. The first part of Purusukta prayer 4 is same as the Bhagavatam verse. Padas trayo bahis chasan. Bahis means external. Padas trayo. Trayo means 3. Pada means part. So bahis means in this material universe, outside this material universe, there is trayopad, padas trayo. There is another realm which is 3 part, and this one which we are at the moment, you and me are residing right now, discussing and having this conversation right now, is actually the remaining. It is only one pad, ek pad. So trayopad means 3 pad. Bahis-chasan aprajanam ya ashramaha. Aprajanam. Janam or prajanam actually means, praja means one who takes birth again and again. So apraja means one who does not take birth. So one who does not take birth is liberated. So aprajanam ya ashramaha. Ashrama means is the place of living. So beyond the material realm lies the spiritual realm with the abode of the liberated souls. Aprajanam ya ashrama. So it is the abode, ashrama of the liberated souls. Antastri lokayastva paro. Antah, anta. So bahis means outside, antah means inside. So he's saying that outside it is spiritual, where liberated souls are living, but inside, 3 lokayas tva paro. Tva aparo. Aparo means whatever remaining is there. So 3 pad is the spiritual, and whatever is remaining is, that is ek pad, is the material world. Graho medho brahad vrataha. Ab brahad vrataha. Graha medho. Graha medho means materialists. So in the material world, who are living? Those who are materialists and those who are abrahad vrataha. Abrahad vrataha means those who are not capable of taking significant vows or serious vows. Vrata means vows. Brahad means big, and abrahad means which is not big, which means small. So only small vrata. Small vrata means they are not capable of taking big vratas. Big vratas means, for example, brahmacharya. So if you read Srila Prabhupada's commentary, he is saying that abrahad vrata actually refers here to brahmacharya. So people who are spiritualists, they live a life full of vows, regulations, rules, regulations, etc. And those people who are not spiritualists, they are not capable of taking such big vows, and that is why they are referred here as abrahad vrataha. Graha medho, who are materialists and who are not capable of taking big vows. So in the material realm of the 3 gunas, the materialists devoid of bhakti to the Lord reside. So that is the difference between the people of spiritual world as well as the material world. People of spiritual world are liberated, and people of material world are having materialistic tendencies, and they are not interested in spiritual life because they cannot take big vows. That is the understanding of verse number 20. So this is the picture. You can see, you will see in ISKCON generally the artists will paint the spiritual world and the material world like this. So 3 pad vibhuti. So 3 pad means 75% of this picture you see here is all spiritual world. 3/4, and only in the 1/4 corner, 25% is the material world. So you see here the material world where Garbhodakshay Vishnu or is lying in the I would say Karanadakshay Vishnu is lying here, and maybe he's entering into the universe where the lotus comes and the Brahmaji is born onto that lotus. So this is shown as the material world, and the 3/4 is shown as the spiritual world. Okay, we go to the 21st verse. Mataji?
Yes, Prabhu.
Is it?
Yes.
Sriti vichakrame vishwang
Shriti Vikshame Vishwam
शासनाशने उभे
शासनानासने उभे
यद अविद्या च विद्या च
यत् अविद्या च विद्या च
पुरुषस्तु भयाश्रयाः.
पुरुषस्तु भयाश्रयः.
Hmm.
The jiva, qualified by ignorance and knowledge, wanders on two paths for attaining enjoyment and for attaining liberation. The Lord is the shelter of both paths.
For both the paths, for liberation as well as for attaining enjoyment.
Yes,
So
both.
Sriti with chakrame Vishwang. Vishwang means one who lives in the Vishwa. And who lives in the Vishwa? It is the Jiva who lives in the Vishwa. Sriti. So Sriti means what? Sriti means the path. And with chakrame means he is wandering on the path. Sriti with chakrame Vishwan. Shasana anashane ubhe. Shasana anashane ubhe. Shasan means to lord it over, to control things. Sashana. And anashane ubhe. Anashane means ashana means eating. Anashana means not eating. So anashana means not eating, means who are nivritti marg. Nivritti means who are rejecting everything else. So they are something like called as liberated people. So Sriti Vikchakrame Vishwan Sashana Anashane Ubhe Yad Avidya cha Vidya cha Purushastu Bhayashraha. So there are two type of people in the both the worlds. One who are qualified by ignorance and another who are qualified by knowledge. So qualified by ignorance means avidya, and who are qualified by knowledge means vidya. Vendors on two paths. And what are those two paths? One path is sashana, another path is anashane. Sashana, the path of sashana is attaining enjoyment. Say, I am the Lord, I am the Master, and so on. So that is Sashana. And Anashane means who reject the world, who are trying to follow the Nivritti mark, follow the path of renunciation, and for attaining liberation. So he's saying, Brahmaji is saying that the Lord is the shelter of both the paths. Yad avidya cha vidyascha purushastu bhayashraya. Ashraya means shelter, and that shelter is the Lord. The Lord is shelter for both the paths, the path for liberation as well as path for the ignorance or path for the attachment, enjoyment. So like that, he is explaining this verse number 21. Okay. Now this you can find in the Purushukta verse, prayer number 4, part 2. So we go to the 22nd verse. Yasmadandam virajanye.
Yasmadandam virajasne.
Yasmadandam virajagye.
Yasmadandam virajadne.
Jagye.
Yagne.
Uh,
Yasmadantam viradande.
Virat jagye.
Jagye. Yes.
Bhutendriya gunatmakaha.
Bhutendriya gunatmaka.
Taddravyat matyagat.
Tadravyam atyagat vishwam.
Taddravyam matyagad vishwam.
Tadravyam atyagat vishwam.
Gobhi surya ivatapan.
Gopi surya ivatapan.
Hmm.
From the Lord, the universe was born. The Lord, possessing elements, senses, and gunas, after entering the universe, surpassed that material universe and remained in the spiritual world. Just as the sun illuminates the universe with its rays while remaining in his planet.
So the theme of this verse is that the Lord is aloof. Lord is aloof means although the Lord creates this universe, but the Lord does not come in contact with this universe. The Lord is transcendental. Although he creates this universe, but he resides in his spiritual abode. But he resides in his spiritual abode. So Yasmad Andam Virad Jagye. Yasmad Andam Virad Jagye. Andam Virad means material realm. Yasmad. Yasmad means from the Lord. So this Andam Virad, this Virad material universe, this big material universe is coming from the Lord. Jagya means coming from the Lord. Bhutendriya Gunatmakaha. It is made up of bhutas means the elements, indriya means the senses, gunatmaka means the guna. Uh, Although this material universe, which is made up of senses, which is made up of elements, which is made up of gunas, comes from the Lord. Tad dravyam. Atyagad Vishwam. Atyagad means surpassed. Atyagad means transcendental. Uh, After entering the universe, Tad dravyam. After entering the universe, Atyagad Vishwam. Surpassed the material universe. And how he does it? And remained in the spiritual world, just as the sun illuminates the universe with its rays while remaining in his planet. So he's explaining this concept that the Lord creates this material universe, but yet he is beyond the material universe by with the help of an analogy. And that analogy is the analogy of the sun. So the sun is in the sky as a globe, as a round object, but the sun also gives us sunlight and heat. But for that giving of light and heat, does the sun personally comes to the planet? He does not come personally to the planet. He remains situated on the sky, in the outer sky, and from there he sends his heat and light, and that's how we get heat and light. So similarly, the Lord is situated in the spiritual world, but through his energies, through his material energies, he creates all these universe and manages and maintains this universe through his energies. Although, so that is the message, the Lord is aloof. The universe is born from the Lord, which possesses elements, senses, and gunas, but the Lord is surpassed from that material universe and remained in the spiritual world. Similarly, as the sun illuminates the universe with its rays while remaining in his planet. So the sun remains in its planet, although he illuminates the outer world through its energy, through its heat and light, like that. So idea in this section from 18 to 22 is Brahmaji takes a detour. In the first part of the chapter, Brahmaji explains that all the material ingredients come from the Lord, and we discuss by what formula he's trying to explain everything. Ultimately, in verse number 13 to 16, he says that everything comes from the Lord, but the Lord is beyond the material universe. And then in verse number 17, he says that Lord not only provides the ingredients but also makes these universe functional by being the effective cause of this universe. And then Brahmaji takes a detour. He deviates from the discussion that was going on. He starts the discussion that the Lord is not only the master of the material universes, but he is also the master of the spiritual world. The spiritual world is 3/4 and material world is only 1/4. And then the different categories or different qualities of spiritual world and the material world are given. Spiritual world is amritam, it is fearless, but the material world is opposite to it. It is temporary, it is full of fear, like that. And then he starts to describe the differences between the material and the spiritual world, and ultimately he says that although the Lord gives this material universes, but he is beyond the material universes. So like that, Ekpad Vibhuti and Tripad Vibhuti, the material Vibhuti as well as the spiritual Vibhuti of the Lord is being discussed by Brahmaji from verse number 18 to 22. Now from verse number 23 onwards, Brahmaji will once again come back to the same topic, Yacha. He will now give some experiences of his own, where he will tell that how the Supreme Lord is the material cause of the universe, like that. So we will discuss this portion of the chapter from verse number 23 to 30, and if possible more in the next class. So today I could not get a lot of time, so I could prepare only this much. So with that, we conclude the session today. If you have any questions, we can discuss now. Thank you very much. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Are there any
Hare
questions?
Krishna.
Yes,
Dandavad
Prabhuji.
Guruji.
Dandvat Mata. Prabhuji, yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Rajinji. Any questions?
Thanks, sir.
Okay. So if no questions are there, then we conclude the session today, and we will reconvene in the next class with the verses from 23rd onwards.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.